Okay, Merrick, it's your live.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Perth East, this 26th day of July, to our special meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If everyone could please bow their heads for a moment of reflection. Thank you. We have a motion to confirm the agenda. Is there anything anyone wants to add to the agenda? If not, the motion we have is that the agenda as prepared for July 26, 2022 special meeting of Council of the Township of Perth East be approved. Moved by Andrew, second by Amanda. All in favor? Carried. If you have pecuniary interest, you can declare that now or as the meeting goes along. Our first report is the zoning bylaw amendments for Lena and Sydney Martin, and Melissa, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'll just share my screen here. Does everyone see this?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So tonight we have an application rezoning files at 04/2022, and I'm going to be presenting my recommendation to approve this rezoning application. So the subject lands are located at 6870 Perth Road 121, just south of Millbank. The property has a lot area of 21.04 hectares and 350-meter frontage, which is just one parcel. However, there's an adjacent farm lot adjacent to the subject lands, just over 20 hectares as well, owned by the same owner and serves as a part of the overall cash crop farm operation. The lands have recently merged on title in July of 2020. Property contains an existing dwelling, livestock barn, machinery storage shed, and the sawmill building and associated outdoor storage, and surrounding land uses are all agricultural. The owners of the subject lands have operated a family-run sawmill secondary farm occupation since approximately 2015. The business initially ran out of a 370 square meter detached structure, and the operation has subsequently expanded over the last few years. The sawmill operation currently consists of the following facilities: just over 371 square meters, main sawmill building, 214 meters sawdust mulch storage enclosure, 17.8 meters debarking station, and approximately 4,200 square meters of outdoor storage. The owner is requesting a ZBA to permit a building addition to the existing sawmill operation in order to allow for the expansion of the use and to prevent sawdust from migrating to the neighboring property. Perth East zoning bylaw permits one secondary farm occupation with a maximum of 375 square meters devoted to the use and a maximum of 2,000 square meters for outdoor storage. The owner is proposing to expand the building area to 615 square meters and outdoor storage area to 2,122 square meters, and hence this ZBA application. So I'm just going to guide you briefly through, just to refresh your memory, through the current imagery. This is what we have on site right now. The sawmill operation consists of processing pine logs that are delivered from various locations in central and northern Ontario, debarking and milling logs into a variety of wood products such as dimensional lumber, plywood sheets, and processing of lower quality logs and mill scraps for mulch and wood chips for landscaping. The sawdust and mulch products are deposited via conveyor belt, and as you can see on the north side of the sawmill building, and within this partially walled enclosure. Logs are delivered and dropped in the laneway area between the livestock barn and the dwelling. The logs have been stored temporarily on the east side of the barn and predominantly to the west of the barn and south of the mill. The owner indicates that the logs are typically staged for a short period of time before being processed into other products. And this is what it looks like from the road. The distance from the sawmill dust station, current dust station, to the neighboring house is approximately 260 meters. This is what the owner is proposing. The sawmill business functions as a non-farm diversified use for the main use of the property for cash crop and livestock production. The use is permitted as per on-farm OFDU guidelines, and I'm referring specifically to the guidelines on permitted uses in Ontario prime agricultural land, agricultural areas rather, MAFRA publication 851. The guidelines stipulate that an OFDU cannot occupy more than 2% of the area up to a maximum of 1 hectare, the more restricted being applicable, and not more than the buildings themselves cannot occupy more than 20% off of the 2%. As I said, the building functions as a secondary use to the main use of the property, which is cash crop and livestock production. So this is the proposal. This is the extent of the addition and the enclosure. The zoning bylaw permits the use currently, which is manufacture and fabrication of goods. But the amendment aims to create a site-specific provisions that will permit an increase in the building area for the secondary farm occupation to 615 square meters, whereas 375 meters are permitted, and slightly increase the outdoor storage area to 2,122, whereas 2,000 square meters are permitted, and permit the reduction of the side yard setback to 26 meters, whereas 30 meters is required. Both the secondary farm occupation area and the building area included in the outdoor storage are consistent with the provincial policy statement. The slight reduction in the side yard setback is acceptable, in my opinion, given the proposal aims to stay compact and close to the existing cluster of uses, which is barn storage and residential, and utilize the same access. The location of the expansion and the associated side yard reduction is least intrusive to the agricultural production on the lot and the neighbor, in my opinion, and as the addition is further away than the existing sawmill building. The sawmill operation will also be subject to site plan control, and which will require the owner to submit detailed drawings depicting the sawmill activity areas, including building location, lighting, access, servicing, parking, and grading and drainage. These drawings will be subject to detailed review and approval by municipal staff, including fire, building, roads, and a planning department. Prior to the issuance of a building permit for any existing or proposed structure, registration of an agreement on title will be required as part of the approval process, site plan approval process. And here are the provisions that we are recommending. These are in your report. So in summary, we are proposing that this amendment be approved, that the provisions kind of pertain to the land itself, the maximum sawmill operation combined floor area to be 615 square meters, the maximum sawmill accessory outdoor storage to be 2,122 square meters, and the minimum sawmill side yard setback of 26 meters. And of course, that the sawmill itself be subject to site plan control. Thank you. This concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Melissa. Any questions for Melissa? Jeremy?
Excuse me. Yeah, Melissa, I have a couple of questions. You said in your report there that the addition is further away from the existing sawmill operation. What can you clarify that? Because we're asking for a side yard setback reduction of 4 meters from what should be 30 meters, but you're saying it's further away. So can you clarify that statement?
Yes, Councilor Matheson. So the addition is further away because it's kind of pushed back to the northwesterly side of the existing building. So even though it is closer, it is coming closer towards the northerly property line, but it is further away from the neighboring house because it's being kind of pushed away to the northwesterly corner. It
Okay,
is indeed
yeah.
coming closer to the property line, but it's being further away from the house. And keep in mind that where the sawmill is being proposed, an actual building is being proposed, right? Where the sawmill dust is currently, that's where the building is going to go, the addition itself. So everything will be enclosed.
Right. Is there a particular reason that building couldn't go behind the existing building to the west as opposed to the north of that building? Is there a specific reason that we're, not taking it further away from that house?
I suspect it's because of their own kind of logistical reasons and maneuvering. I know that for a fact they try to avoid that, coming closer to the property line, but because of the layout and the setup of the existing kind of machinery and the existing building, this is just an expansion of the existing operation. So they couldn't be, they could not kind of design in such a way to avoid this reduced setback. So this was the only way they could kind of organize the logistics and manufacturing within the addition, with the addition.
Okay. And sorry, I'll just finish my questions if that's okay. So we're proposing these new buildings. Are we proposing a building around that debarking machine? The debarker, as we see now on the west side of the building, it looks like, is still open. And as I understand, that item does produce a lot of mold from it, which is what's, impacting the neighbors. So I'm curious if we're proposing, I did bring this up at the last meeting, if we're able to get that debarker enclosed.
Yes, Councilor Matheson, my understanding is that the proponent is willing to enclose everything just to get this project moving, including the debarking station. And I actually had an exchange with his consultant this morning and kind of precisely stated the same thing, which is that the township wants this debarking station enclosed, and the consultant is preparing all the documents for their ECA submittal. So yes, debarking will be enclosed just like everything else. Everything pertaining to the sawmill operation will be enclosed.
And where do we see that in the zoning bylaw proposal, the amendment that we're seeing there? Where do I see that part? I was a little bit confused. It talks about the existing debarking machine later on in the report, but it doesn't specify in here. It does talk about the accessory outdoor storage, talks about the sawmill operation combined floor area, but I'm just a little bit leery on where that actually specifies that debarker is going to be enclosed. I don't see that anywhere specifically, and I'd like to make sure that is the case here.
You're absolutely correct, Councilor Matheson. It's not, we did not make it a condition, and we did not include that specifically in the provisions. But do keep in mind that this still has to go through site plan approval, right? So that's the next instance, and we can certainly request it. So site plan is like it's a private development agreement between the township and the proponent. So we can certainly request these things because we're going to be looking at the site as a whole, lighting, access, parking, all these provisions like in great detail. So we can ensure at that stage that this is indeed enclosed within the building. Like I said, I had I'm having very frequent contact with the proponent. We can certainly add it to the provisions if that is your preference. My understanding is that Mr. Martin is kind of very keen to get this project moving and has been very accommodating. This is certainly like a huge expense for them to enclose everything, but they're willing to do so, to enclose absolutely everything.
So that 2,122 square meters, that space includes an enclosure for the debarker.
No, so 2021, 22, that's just the outdoor storage
Oh,
area
sorry, the
for
615.
law.
Yeah, sorry, the 615.
Yes, yes.
15.
Yeah, just recently, we exchanged, several emails and then several layouts, proposals kind of pertaining to the exact layout of the building and the size of the building. They were looking to reduce it somewhat, but have since decided to, comply with fire provisions of, firefighting provisions, building code provisions. So there will indeed stay at keep the building at 615 meters and enclose everything. That's my understanding. And we're kind of I'm in contact with Mr. Martin pretty much like every other day.
Okay, I just want to make sure that debarker is enclosed. It is great to say that that they're going to do that and everything. I want to see that on paper somewhere that's going to be taken care of. And yeah, it's good that they're accommodating. We've also been accommodating for them as well, because it's been going on for quite a while and it just needs to get dealt with. So I want to see it in here somewhere that's going to be enclosed, that debarker. Thanks.
I think Wes, I'll let him speak next. He can probably confirm this.
Yes, thank you, Mary. So I have been speaking with Mr. Martin regarding the enclosure of the debarker, and they are putting together something right now with their engineer. So it's going to have an engineered stamp on the structure, the enclosure of the debarker. Now, as far as the Ontario Building Code is concerned, we don't consider that a building per se. However, we are, taking the drawings and certainly ensuring that all of what's being enclosed has an engineer's stamp on it, and that it has, had the calculations done for all of the vibration and loading and everything on that sort of an enclosure. So all of that is in the works, Councillor Matheson, and respectfully, I do note your concern there to have it in writing too. So I just wanted to mention though the fact that we are talking to the Martins about all of those items that have been mentioned.
Okay, Daryl?
Yeah, no, thanks there, Jeremy, as well. The debarking was tickling in the back of my mind for the last afternoon. It sounds good. I'm glad to hear this site plan again approval. So we're going to be seeing some more here. And I believe we all are aware as a council, and yeah, we'll be checking. But great point, Councillor Matheson, for sure. I agree. We're accommodating everybody here the best we can, and staff, I'm sure, is quite overwhelmed at times, but okay. I'm okay with what we see here. Thank you.
Anyone else with questions? If not, then we do have a motion that the Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report dated July 26, 2022, prepared by the planner, entitled Zoning Bylaw Amendment number D14-Z04-2022-PE, submitted by Lena and Sydney Martin, affecting lands described as Concession 6, south part of Lot 15, Concession 5, north part of Lot 15, Mornington Ward, 6870 Road 121, Millbank, for information. And that Council approves zoning bylaw amendment number 204-2022 as follows. Section 6.9.180 shall be added to bylaw 30-1999 as follows. Section 6.9.180, A, location, concession 6, south part of lot 15, concession 5, north part of lot 15, Mornington Ward. B, notwithstanding the provisions of section 3.133 of zoning bylaw 30-1999 to the contrary, a sawmill secondary farm occupation is permitted as follows. Number 1, a maximum sawmill operation combined floor area of 615 square meters. Number 2, the maximum sawmill accessory outdoor storage is 2122 square meters. The minimum, number 3, the minimum sawmill side yard setback is 26 meters. And C, the sawmill and accessory outdoor storage shall be subject to site plan control, section 41 of the Planning Act. Do we have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Hugh. Second by Amanda. Is there any more comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks, Melissa. Now we're moving on to the application to consent to sever by Dave Hanley for John and Catherine Jacobs and Puni. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Eggets. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I'll be presenting the consent application, file number P2122. Excuse me. The application is for consent to sever lot addition. The application was submitted by Dave Hanley. The property owners are Catherine and John Jacob. The recommendation here is for the municipality of Perth East to receive the report that is provided and to recommend approval to this consent application. This property is located at 2874 Forest Road. And pardon me, I would like to share my screen before I continue. Yeah, I believe now you can all see the presentation.
No, I'm
No?
black. I'm seeing your name. It says you started to screen share, but that's all I see.
Oh, I'm not sure why it's.
Maybe go back out and try again.
Oh, I think I'm locked out. Okay, my apologies. Okay. All right. Yeah, good. Let's try it again. How about now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so the area for this property is approximately 2.5 hectares, and the applicant and the owner, they would like to sever off 1.6 hectares of this land. It's marked in red here, as you can see. And so the retained portion will then have a almost 1 hectare, a bit below 1 hectare. The official plan, land use designation under the official plan here is urban fringe and natural resource environment. They both prohibit development on these lands. However, the applicant is not proposing any new development. They would like to just really sever off the land at the rear of their property and add it to this property, which is owned by Richter's family, and so that they can manage the maintenance of their backyard a bit better. So that's their purpose, really. As I mentioned, there is an overlay of a wetland area at this part of the property. As you can see, I included the topography so that you can see there's a high elevation from the top of the property to the bottom here in the wetland area. And now the applicant has been, the agent has been proactive. They've contacted the UTRCA, and they were able to get their confirmation that if there is no development or site alteration proposed, which is the case here, tonight, they have no objection to the consent application, as you can see here. Now, I should also mention that the zoning bylaw zoning designation is HBR1, which allows for a single detached dwelling. And along Forest Road, you can see there are all single detached dwellings on these properties. The frontage here on the easterly side is approximately 24 meters, and on the westerly side is approximately 8 meters. And now with this severance, the frontage will not be affected. The only affected really element as for the zoning bylaw goes is the lot coverage, which is still well above the minimum requirements of the zoning bylaw. We also have put in place a condition which will satisfy a official plan condition, which requires the severed land to be joined to the Richter's family here. And they also had 2 different pins here on this property, which now is consolidated and we received a new PIN number. So now the severed land will be added to this lot as per the condition of the severance here. As for the provincial policy statement also goes when it comes to rural development, they would like to see that the character of the neighborhood is maintained and the scale of development is appropriate, which in this case, staff believes it is. And it is in conformity, therefore, with the official plan policies, provincial policy statement, and zoning bylaw of the Perth East. And I believe that would conclude my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? Andrew?
Thank you, planner, for the report. So I see a letter from someone who was Mr. Scott, and he was talking about development. So it seems like it's pretty clear that there's no development plan for this other than adjoining the house to the rest of the lot. I just want to confirm that.
Thank you, Councilor McAlpine. Yes, actually, my apologies. I was going to mention the correspondence that I had with the public. Yes, and I've already reached out to them, and so did the owner. I have a confirmation email that they are not opposing the consent application. I explained this is not a development proposal or site alteration for that matter. It's only really a adjustment of the lot. It's just lot enlargement. And the owner and the applicant are aware that the development is not permitted within these areas.
I just made a quick follow-up.
Sure.
So under what conditions could this be developed? Or is the way they're zoned right now, like we're in the middle of an official plan adjustment right now for the county? Is there a condition? One is urban fringe. So to move that urban fringe one into development, just in case anybody's watching or listening, they know what to look for. I know everybody in the area will be notified if there's any plans for that. But
yeah, urban fringes, they are definitely a portion that, thank you, and Councillor, they are a portion that will be reviewed further in the new OP, I must say. But right now, development is, new development that is prohibited in these areas under the OP. So it is not encouraged, but also not permitted, especially new residential development. And also, as I mentioned, there's also an overlay of Conservation Authority wetlands, which is really, it would be very difficult to get their approval on development of these lots. But from the OP perspective, it is not encouraged and permitted.
thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Daryl?
Yeah, no, it was kind of interesting when I seen this. I'm familiar with this area about 20 years ago. That field there to the west, I actually used to jog in there quite a bit. We pulled tug of war. We practiced tug of war next door there. Just a little silliness, but anyways, that is quite low in there, and I'm aware of that. Now, this house on the end has purchased that. Would have it mattered? There's multiple homes there. Would have any one of those homes been able to attach that to the rear of their lot if they were willing to purchase this piece of property? Or is there a reason that N1 was allowed to? This is really unique.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. So I'm not aware if the other neighbors have been interested. I haven't advised of that, but all I know is that the Richter's family, they have been interested in purchasing that land because it requires a lot of maintenance. Actually, I can, if you don't mind, I can share my screen again. I had a couple of more slides, but I wasn't sure if it's necessary to show them. I can show you the picture I have here. All right. So here is the property, is the owner's property, and then it goes really downhill from here. As you see, the elevation here is quite high. So for them to really do anything, it would be quite difficult. And this is also the Richter's family, and this would go to the current owner's property. Now, thank you. I'm just going to stop sharing here. But I am not aware if the other parties have been at all interested in purchasing it.
Yeah, okay. I was just, it was unique that the one on the very end is deciding to take it. I get how it wraps around a bit, and yeah, it's permitted. It can happen, and it's quite an exchange and quite a chunk of land. But I'm very familiar with it there. It is very low and wet. So,
yeah.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Anyone else with questions? If not, we do have a motion that the Council of the Township of Perth East receive a report entitled Application for Consent to Sever Lot Addition Number B21-22 by Dave Hanley, affecting lands described as Part Lot 37, Concession 1, Southeast Hope Ward, 2874 Forest Road, dated July 26, 2022, prepared by the County Planner for information. And that Council recommend that the County of Perth Land Division Committee or that its designate approve the application for consent to sever lot addition number B21-2022, subject to the conditions. And I'll give you the Reader's Digest conditions. Of the conditions, number 1, confirmation be received from a solicitor that the certificate of the official will be scanned and attached to the electronic registration of the transfer. Number 2, the Land Division Committee be provided with a description that is consistent with the application and equal to that required for registration of the deed/transfer. Number 3, confirmation received from the Perth County Land Division Committee that the notice sign and sign frame posted on the subject property was returned to the issuing municipality within 30 days of the decision. Number 4, solicitor's undertaking shall be received by the County of Perth Land Division Committee, which shall be to the effect that the severed parcel be added as a lot addition to the abutting parcel located at 2886 Forest Road, part of Lot 37, Concession 1, Southeast Hope, Township of Perth East. And number 5, that confirmation be received from Perth East that all taxes have been paid in full. 6, Perth East, all financial requirements have been met. Number 7, confirmation from Perth East that the municipal drains are reviewed and updated. And number 8, registration of an environmental easement for operation, noise, and vibration emissions in favor of CN. We have a mover and a seconder for that motion. Moved by Amanda, second by Jerry. Is there any more comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks, Booney. We will now
Thank
move
you.
to the auditor appointment, and Paula, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Agates. So council will note that we have the report here for the results of our RFQ for external audit services for the 5-year period of year ends ending in 2022 to 2026. We received 5 submissions from the RFQ, and the first year audit fees ranged from $23,750 up to $45,000. And there was a over the 5-year increase percentage for those 5 submissions. It ranged from a 9% to a 17% from the various submissions. So the CAO, treasurer, and the accounting supervisor, we reviewed the submissions separately, and with an average rating between the 3 of us of 98%, we're recommending Seabach and Company from Clinton, Ontario be assigned as the external auditor for Perth East for the 2022 to 2026 years. Seabach and Company would come to Perth East with over 35 years of local municipal auditing experience, and that is from the Bruce, Huron, Perth counties. And they have their presentation, their submission presented strong audit approach and techniques, as well as a commitment to consistency with staff for the auditors, so that township staff wouldn't be retraining and passing that knowledge on to rotating staff every year. So there will be no budget impact for the 2022 budget, but these numbers would be implemented into the future budgets of 2023 to 2027. So that's my report, and if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, thanks, Paula. Questions of the report? Seeing no questions, I have a motion that the Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report prepared by the Treasurer dated July 26, 2022, entitled Auditor Appointment for Information, and that Council appoint the firm Seabach and Company as external auditors for the fiscal years of 2022, 23, 24, 25, and 2026. I have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Jeremy. Second by Andrew. Any more comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks, Paula. Our next report is bylaw enforcement, and I believe Wes is going to do this.
Yes, thank you, Mary Ogitz. This report is to do with a bylaw enforcement agreement for Tenant Security Group. As council is aware, the township currently has a vacancy in the position of bylaw officer. Staff have analyzed a variety of different options and believe that in order to best serve the community of Perth East, that Perth East should hire an independent contractor to supply bylaw enforcement services. So there was a resolution passed on July 5th that had to do with parking in the downtown of Milverton, as you can see in the report. So staff are recommending that the township sign an agreement with Tenant Security Group to provide bylaw services. Tenant Security offer an experienced team of professionals who are very capable of handling the confidential and delicate matters in the township appropriately and effectively. The team currently is comprised of 2 enforcement officers and 1 managing director. The officers are equipped with the expertise to de-escalate situations, but more importantly, they're also there to educate residents on the township's bylaws, which is very important. So a small team with Tenant will allow both enforcement officers to become very familiar with the township and its residents, which will lead to a service that's going to fit Perth East's unique needs. So if appointed, Tenant Security Group would be responsible for carrying out a wide variety of bylaw enforcement associated activities as defined in Schedule A of the attached agreement. Tenant will provide consistency within the township's bylaw enforcement, especially with the parking and traffic bylaw, which I know is becoming a point of contention in many areas. As council is aware, traffic and parking, especially in the settlement areas, has become an issue. So enforcement that's more consistent will ensure that parked vehicles do not impede fire and public work vehicles, especially. The ability to delegate bylaw enforcement to Tenant will free up a considerable amount of staff time within the building department. And it's going to allow us to focus on issues concerning zoning and building matters, especially that are especially pertinent now. Tenant Security, they've been retained to provide bylaw enforcement services in both North Perth and West Perth. And I currently reside in North Perth, and have seen the results here. This will ensure that bylaw enforcement is not only consistent within our own township, but also consistent within the surrounding areas. It's also going to allow for tenant staff to become extremely familiar with the area. Staff conducted a reference check and received positive feedback from both West and North Perth. So maybe I can leave it to Treasurer Michaels to speak to the budgetary impacts.
Okay, so the budgetary impact for obtaining Tenant as a contractor for the bylaw services, there'd be approximately a $2,300 savings in the 2023 budget when everything is analyzed out based when you're paying the contract fee versus wages and the materials and supplies and whatnot. So you're going to save about $2,300 at the proposed level of service.
Okay, thanks, Wes and Paula. Any questions from members of council? Jeremy?
The agreement says 20 hours bi-weekly. So, you know, on average, 10 hours a week. Is that roughly the amount of service that you're having to give right now, Wes? Or how does that, you know, compute with what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I think initially the 20 hours would be sufficient, you know, once they've settled into the township. There's going to be a bit of a learning education period or period of grace, if you will, where there'll be warnings given out to, you know, people that have been parking in areas for a number of years. So I think that the 20 hours is consistent with Perth's level of service. So the answer is yes, I think that 20 hours bi-weekly is appropriate.
Will they be, I didn't really see sort of the purview of what they'd be handling in those bylaws. They've talked a lot about parking, but things like property standards too, is that going to be within what they'll be doing as well, or is that going to more closely involve our department?
Yeah, so the way that it's going to work, Jeremy, is that the township will be able to vet all of the complaints that are coming through to Tenant. So certainly if anything is frivolous or something that is not you know, open to discussion or doesn't meet the property standards or noise bylaw or whatever bylaw it is, we're gonna assign those items to them as necessary. However, they will be very capable to enforce all of those bylaws, property standards included, tidy yards, noise bylaw, so on and so forth. However, the way the agreement reads, if you read the contract, we will be able to certainly step in if there's anything frivolous or anything that we don't want them to be spending their time on.
Okay, thank you, Wes.
Okay, Jerry, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. So I think this comes at a great time. We've had obviously the parking complaints. I've had some complaints about chickens, complaints about burning garbage. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to have a company step in and help us out with those. So my question is though for Wes, so, and I think you kind of touched on it, Wes will still be the CBO / bylaw person, I guess. So we still have that capabilities within the township staff to lay charges, to carry on as such. Am I correct in saying that we're not losing any of those?
Yes, Councillor Smith, you're 100% correct. The myself and our staff, Perth East staff, through the CBO will definitely have the control of what is being enforced in the township. including obviously the fire chief and public works manager. We'll be able to vet all of what is being addressed with complaints. We do receive complaints where obviously it is two neighbors that just don't get along. And the case sometimes is that the complaint is frivolous. If you look at the bylaw pertinent to the complaint, you really have to tell them that it is frivolous. And in some cases, it's purely a civil matter between neighbors. So we're not going to be wasting the tenant's time with things that aren't pertinent to our bylaw. What they are going to be tasked with is our parking and traffic, which is black and white. If you're parked in an area where you're not supposed to be parking after the educational period is up, you're going to get a ticket. And it's going to be really good for these bylaws to be enforced, as you mentioned, Councillor Smith. So I think I answered your question, but yes, we will be able to vet and have our say in all of what's going on with the bylaws.
Eric, do you want to add to that?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to add the bylaw we are asking for council to pass tonight would appoint not only any contractor that the township hires for bylaw enforcement, but it also appoints our chief building official, our building inspectors, the fire prevention officer, and the fire chief as bylaw enforcement. So we will have a variety of positions within our own personal staff that will be able to handle bylaw complaints as well.
Okay, Daryl?
Yeah, no, great, thanks. No, I understand the need of bylaw enforcement, of course. I hear it down here in the south end. I get Tavistock's complaints coming to me, being I'm only 3 minutes away. I know it's not our municipality. That I understand. I know there's a lot of noise complaints, a lot of pets, a lot of dogs have been purchased in the last couple of years. I'm hearing that. Lots of complaints there. I understand it's overwhelming at time. I looked under number 9 there within this document, and it's nice that, you know, we can terminate if there's some gross action, right? I'm a big guy around private property rights, and it talks about grossness of an invasion that's totally out of line. I was wondering if there's just a little bit where we could have something there in terms of private property without a complaint. I don't know if I'm mumbling here or kind of gray, but just, you know, going from door to door, you know, snooping in backyards. This has happened in cities before. I'm not saying that's going to happen here. I guess it would be a tough one at this point. Just
so if I could
go ahead. I'm just concerned with our number 9 there. If there's enough coverage.
So I can address that through your worship there to Councillor Herlick. So the way our property standards bylaw reads is that we don't have a legal right to enter into pursuing the property standards and tidy yards bylaw without a complaint from a neighbor in writing. So basically they have to provide us in writing with a signature, you know, the complaint. So what I mean by that is we aren't just out, they won't be driving around walking through people's backyards, if that's addressing the question. The items that they'll be looking after will be formal complaints submitted to the township through the legal avenues that we have in our bylaws.
Okay, no, great, thanks. CBO, right, that's good to clear up, and it's nice to hear it's in writing, the complaints. And okay, very unique, and yeah, we don't have the right to enter till there's the written complaint. Okay, thank you.
It's always been like that, Daryl. It's always been written complaint. That's the only way that it's been handled up to now as well. So just for clarification. Any other questions? Andrew?
I have a couple, if I may. A complaint driven grade, the term, I saw it finding the terms a little bit. What term did we settle on? 1 year or 2 year? Do we know that?
The term of the contract?
Yes, is an option of 1 or 2 years. It may be in there, sorry, a lot of reading. Is it a 1 or a 2 year term?
Sorry, Mike.
So,
Mike?
yep, sorry, through you, Mayor, it's the initial term is a 3-year, and then there are options for extensions. Yeah, if you look in section 7, Councilor McAlpine, the first paragraph.
Okay, any other questions? Andrew?
Yeah, so I see this report is the parking thing from the Millerton Business Association. I was hoping to have a kick of the can of that separately in some way, shape, or form. If we want to, I don't want to add anything to it that's outside of designating the new company. But I think first thing that came to my mind is how to enforce it, how to best to enforce it, how to make sure it's effective. I'd like to see some parking meters in the affected area in Milverton. So how we want to move ahead with that, discussion on that. I'm not sure how we're going to know when people are parked too long or filling up the wrong spot, unless we do some, maybe the issues aren't 100% clear. But on the one municipal lot there behind near the library, possibly, parking meters might be a way to get some income and pay for some of this, since it looks like we're going to be a significant focus on this area. So I can bring it back as a request for council's consideration at another meeting just to keep it cleaner. But I'm assuming that this isn't coming back again, the Milverton Business Association request, right?
I think you'd have to do that through a notice of motion. Like right now, what we're dealing with is hiring this company.
Yeah.
And that's really only what we're dealing with tonight. If you want to change the parameters of the bylaws and add meters or something else to different facilities. Years ago, what they did, they walked around with a piece of chalk, they marked the tire, they came back in an hour, and if that mark was still in that tire and the car was still there, they'd been there more than their time and they were charged. I don't know if it's that simple or that easy, but once again, it's by complaint. So unless someone complains, we're not going to have the bylaw officers running up and down Main Street and checking traffic every day or every hour. I don't believe.
So that's even for the parking.
I believe it is. Everything, it's by complaint. So unless they write in and complain and say, I see this car parked on the Main Street every day, these hours, I don't believe the people will be going up. Am I correct, Wes?
Yes, Mayor, I was just going to say you are correct. And the other thing too is some of the areas, especially the no parking areas, like fire routes and the life safety areas where it's just flat out you can't park there. I have ticketed a vehicle that was an anonymous complaint of someone driving through the town of Milverton, and the truck happened to be parked quite far out onto the road. And it actually was causing the vehicles to have to go around into oncoming traffic coming through there. So there are areas of the town where it's just a no parking zone, and it just needs to be enforced, with tickets. And that's the best way to keep those areas free and clear and safe.
Okay, Eric?
Sorry, if I may just add the one thing to do with the parking and traffic bylaw. Tenant has assured us that education is one of their main priorities. So they actually have a warning ticket, which they track. So a first time offense due to ignorance of the parking bylaw usually is a warning, which they would then track in their system. So that just kind of helps residents. It's not punitive right off the bat, and it will help those areas where maybe the traffic issues aren't as clear. So they'll be getting warnings, and that's part of what this group will bring to Perth East.
Okay, anyone else with questions? Jeremy?
Yeah, on that education piece. We actually did a letter up and I delivered them to every business owner on Main Street last week. And with a copy of the bylaw and what you can and cannot do. So they've now been formally educated with a letter that I wrote that was similar to the one that went out to us, but it had a copy of the bylaw there too. So, you know, to me, honestly, Wes, the grace period is over. Like most of those people have been talked to. Everybody on Main Street, every business owner has been talked to now, at least by me, and you know, word of mouth that they know what's going on, and their employees should now too. But yeah, I not that I'm saying I'm a bylaw officer, but we've definitely went around and delivered those letters now too very recently.
Yeah, absolutely, Councillor Matheson. And the thing is too, to the earlier point, if there is a concern or somebody feels they've been mistreated or that something hasn't been interpreted properly, township staff, including myself, are still here to hear what's been going on and certainly to address any issues with the service. So we're still in control of it, but I do, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, anyone else with questions? If not, we do have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report entitled Bylaw Enforcement Agreement prepared by the Chief Building Official and Acting Municipal Clerk dated July 26, 2022 for information, and that Council give 3 readings to Bylaw 38-2022, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement to provide services for the enforcement of municipal bylaws and provincial offenses between the Township of Perth East and Tenant Security Group, Inc. And that Council gives 3 readings to Bylaw 39-2022, being a bylaw to appoint bylaw enforcement officer for the Township of Perth East and repeal Bylaw 15-2018. Do we have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Amanda, second by Jerry. Any more comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks, guys. Now we'll move down to bylaws. We have 4 bylaws to be read a first, second, third, and final time. We have Bylaw 37-2022, that's to appoint the auditors. Bylaw 38-2022, the signing of an agreement with Tenant Security Group. Bylaw 39-2022, to appoint a bylaw enforcement officer for the township and to repeal Bylaw 15-2018. And the 4th bylaw 204-2022, a bylaw to amend Bylaw 30-1999, and that has to deal with the property in Millbank. So we need someone to move those. Moved by Andrew, second by Amanda. Any more comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, we have the confirmatory bylaw, that bylaw 40-2022 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Council of the Township of Perth East at a special meeting held on July 26, 2022 be read a first, second, and third time. Moved by Carol, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. And that the special meeting of council be adjourned at 7:58. Moved by Jeremy, second by Andrew. All in favor? Carried.